Welcome back to my kitchen, where whether you call it pancake, ijsvertag met vet, or just simply pound cake, almost every family has their own recipe for some variant of it. Growing up in the South, I'm very familiar with the traditional recipe of 1 pound each of flour, butter, eggs, and sugar with no leavening agents. This results in a cake that is dense and dry and perfect to go with the fresh fruit that is abundant in the South. I love that traditional style, but this whiskey pound cake with pecans feels just as southern with a lighter, moister cake. Start by sifting 3 cups of flour. Sifting will help us achieve a lighter batter later on. Add in 1 teaspoon baking powder for a little bit of rise, 1 teaspoon of salt, and grate in about 1/2 teaspoon of fresh nutmeg for a warm, slight sweetness in the cake. Set this aside and let's talk pans. Using some of our softened butter, coat a 10-inch bundt pan liberally. Since pound cake loves to stay in its pan, I'm adding a pinch of flour, covering with a rag, and shaking to get an even layer. Set aside and in a large mixing bowl, add in our 2 sticks of softened butter. With an electric mixture, cream together the butter and sugar, adding in sugar a 1/2 cup at a time. Like sifting our flour, this will help create a lighter cake by whipping air pockets into the butter. The butter is ready when it's light and a pale yellow, almost white color. Add in your eggs one at a time. I've let them sit at room temperature. At room temp, the yolks break down more easily, letting the eggs mix in with the other ingredients. If you were to use cold eggs, that would lower the temperature of the butter, making it harder for everything to mix. The same principle applies to the sour cream added in later. Make sure to appreciate the perfect one-handed egg crack. It only took 6 eggs to get this shot. Grab your dry ingredients and begin to beat in a third at a time. Scrape down the sides of the bowl and add in 1 cup of sour cream. This will give us a nice moistness to our cake. Beat in another third of dry ingredients, and now it's time for the star of the dish, Jack Daniel's Old No. 7. Add in a 1/2 cup of whiskey. The alcohol will bake off in the oven, but the flavor will persist, and it is delicious. Now, important note for those watching that want to improve their skills in the kitchen. I always recommend tasting your food, and that includes ingredients, so make sure you take a pull just to check for quality. Add in the remaining dry mixture and beat together till combined. The batter will be more liquidous than the average pound cake, but turns out well nonetheless. That's just from the whiskey. I'm using about a cup of roughly chopped pecans, stirring them in after the batter is mixed completely. Pour the batter into a prepared pan and transfer to a 325 degrees Fahrenheit oven for 70 to 75 minutes until a toothpick comes out clean. Let it cool for about 15 minutes, then invert on a wire rack to cool completely. While it cools, let's make a glaze. I'll always advocate there's no reason to measure for a glaze, but for the sake of the video I'll try. Mix together 2 cups of powdered sugar, 1 tablespoon of milk, a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and because why not, a teaspoon or 2 of Jack Daniel's. If your glaze is too runny, add sugar, and if it feels like molasses, add more milk as needed. When the cake is cooled, pour over your glaze and let harden. With that, it's time to serve. I think any pound cake needs to be served with fruit, and I'm going to use canned peaches. Why canned? Because they come in a nice syrup that the cake soaks up. Hopefully you'll love this recipe as much as me, and if you make it, tell me how it goes. Cheers! If you like this video, consider watching another. If you want to see more recipe videos in the future, subscribe, and as always, thank you for watching.